Yep. What's good, y'all, man? We got another Last of Us episode 5 breakdown, man. Hey, episode 5 was litty lit. They finally killed that motherfucker. You feel me? They finally killed that lady. That lady was irritating the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? She was just complaining about everything. She's like, we must find her. If we don't find her, like, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? You feel me? I was glad that motherfucker clicker, you know, or anything you want to call that motherfucker, you know, that killed that motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie, cause she was irritated than a bitch. You feel me, man? No cap. Hey, like it up, sub, hit the bell, man. Let's see about this breakdown. And yeah, episode 5 was a side episode. I ain't gonna lie. Even though all the other episodes were silent too, but this one right here was very action packed. I ain't gonna lie. I thought Ellie gonna die because the way she was. You feel me? You know, falling through them little clickers. I was like, I thought she gonna die, but I mean, I realized, you know, the show is Joy and, you know, Ellie. So I already know she's gonna stay alive, but sometimes it could be reversed. You could be, you feel me, that way. But yeah, but hey, like it up, sub, hit the bell. Let me know what you think about episode 5. If you watch the shows, let me know what y'all think about Last of Us, man. You know what I'm saying? It did come out early because Super Bowl coming on Sunday. You know, a lot of people probably ain't gonna watch it. So, you know, so they were like, hey, let's put it on Friday. So next week they're gonna put it back to Sunday. That'd be good. Hey, I ain't gonna lie, man. I wish they put it on Friday. It's kind of better in my opinion, but they might stay it on Friday, but they're gonna probably put it on Sunday. You know what I mean? But hey, like it or so, hit the bell. Yeah, let's get it.
Grab your sniper rifle. Episode 5 has infected running faster than Pedro Pascal fans after watching this clip.
Yeah, boy.
Hello, I love you.
But that whole motherfucking clickers, and then we got we see a first bloater. That bloater was big as fuck. He came out there when the camera's like this slow motion like this. You're like, I'm like, and you see how it was like, don't look back, because you know you're gonna die. You can't, like, bullets don't affect, you know, so you gotta like use a goddamn RRP or some shit, you know what I mean, a rocket launcher to shoot that motherfucker. Ain't no regular guns, can't, you feel me, like, or you gotta use like goddamn, see, not no knife, not that big motherfucker, no little motherfuckers, you could probably use a knife, like Ellie did, but them big motherfuckers, oh hell nah.
I'm just gonna sit here and say I love you and say hi and slay. And yas.
Now that I've subjected you to that, we can get into this week's deep dive. For those of you new here, welcome, and for those coming back,
why are you doing this to yourself?
Episode 5 actually begins 10 days before the events of Episode 4.
Yeah, 10 days, yep. You know, and I like how they show us flashbacks. That's fire, though.
Fedra's been kicked out of power by Kathleen and her group of revolutionaries. And these revolutionaries are absolutely brutal, with public executions, lynchings, and share music playing over the speakers. In the game, we see similar bodies strung up by the ruthless group known as the Hunters in Pittsburgh. Remember that in the show, Kansas City has replaced Pittsburgh. On the run are Henry and his younger brother Sam. If you played the game, you'll immediately notice two big changes. First, Sam is much younger. In the game, he's closer to 13 instead of 8.
Yeah, he was 8, yeah.
How old are you?
Me? 14. How old are you?
The same? Oh, you're 14, huh? I'm close.
Sir, I need to see some ID.
The writers also made him deaf. Now, as of the time of this writing, they haven't released the podcast, which will likely explain why they made these choices. But as a huge fan of the game, I personally think this worked pretty well. Kathleen scares the shit out of a bunch of collaborators. These are men and women who ratted out their neighbors to Fedra for perks, such as hard-to-come-by foods or medicine. And you bet your ass I'd rat my neighbors out if Fedra had access to new Last of Us episodes. In this one, we learn a little more about Kathleen and why she's become this ruthless, almost dictator-like figure. Her brother, considered by many to be a great man, was the leader of this resistance, and judging by his message of forgiveness, he likely had a very different way of fighting against Fedra's authoritarian rule. As Kathleen will later tell her right-hand man Perry, played here by the same actor who portrayed Tommy in the game, her brother Michael didn't have what it takes to actually get this revolution going. It was only when she took the reins after his death that they started to make headway. way. We also find out that Michael was in prison and was allowed to see family, so it appears that there was some sort of justice system in place under Fedra rule. Remember, the Walls even had these prisoner rights. Juxtapose this to Kathleen, who tells all the collaborators that after a fair trial they'll do some time, but in reality she's just going to have them all killed and their
well, burn alive, like she said. Let's burn them.
Bodies burned in piles.
That shit fucked up, but damn.
One of these piles we see in the show, and another in the game.
Oh, I don't think these guys were infected.
But there's one thing Kathleen wants more than anything. Henry. He turned her brother in.
Yeah, she wanted him, and then she wanted the 2 people.
In exchange for life-saving medicine that could help with Sam's leukemia. Later in the episode, Henry will disclose this to Joel, and it begs the question, does doing a bad thing make you a bad man? Joel's someone who's done tons of bad things.
Yeah, the whole episode, shit. But I mean, he's a good person, though. No cap.
But do we consider him a bad person?
Hell nah. Well, me, my opinion, hell nah. But some people else, I don't know. Their opinion is.
It's a question that's been posed several times throughout the season. One of the collaborators mentions Henry is with Edelstein, the doctor we met in episode 4. He's helped Henry and...
Yeah, now we know he helped both of them out. Because in the episode 4, we didn't know. We was like, okay, he might be telling the truth. He don't know them. But then they showed the flashback that he do know him. So that's why he was lying to her. But... you know what I'm saying? She killed him. That's just fucked up, but yeah, she killed him.
And Sam find refuge in a safe house that once belonged to one of his patients, a patient who is now dead. So Kathleen tasks her cronies with finding Henry and Sam. And you might remember this guy as being the guard who stood outside Edelstein's cell in episode 4. But Perry has some concerns. They've just overtaken the city, and there are far better ways they could be spending their resources than tracking down 2 civilians. The same thing happened in episode 4. Perry warned Kathleen about the bloater problem, but she's
like, no, we're gonna tell him later on. Oh yeah, we're gonna tell him later on. We must find Henry and these 2 people. It's like, bro, if you can't find them, say your people. But she said, no, we're gonna say them. We must find these 3 people or 4 people.
He shrugged it off, telling him instead to focus on Henry and Sam.
Like, what? Like, come on, man.
She has put her personal vendetta against Henry ahead of the welfare of her people.
I'm saying her people needs help, and she over there still trying to look for them.
A decision that will ultimately get her.
And I'm so glad. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I know y'all was glad too that she died. I know y'all was happy too. Let me comment below. Y'all know y'all was happy too. Let me know, y'all. Let me know.
And her followers killed. The attic hideout looks a little different than when we saw it in episode 4. No crayon drawings on the wall or empty cans of food. This will change over the next 10 days, as the 3 ration the 20 cans of food and 6 pounds of jerky. Henry's plan is to sneak out via the tunnels, but Edelstein says he might as well just kill himself. Those tunnels are supposedly filled with infected. Remember that Tess said infected love dark and damp conditions, so it kinda makes sense. And later on in the episode, when Henry explains his plan to Joel, he states the infected were driven underground by Fedra 15 years ago. Everyone topside fears the tunnels and won't go near them, but a Fedra guy he worked with told him they're completely clean. And you know, if they're Fedra, it's gotta be true. Edelstein tells Henry that Sam is scared because he's scared, so to quell his fears and draw his attention away from the violence of the world, he gives him some crayons to liven up the place.
Alright. Somebody drew a penis.
Here he draws Super Sam, who fights off the evil Fedra forces.
Like a superhero, yeah.
10 days later, the rations have run out, Fedra is closing in on their location, and Edelstein has gone an entire day looking for food and hasn't returned.
The lab and killed him.
We know from episode 4 that he was somehow caught, so Henry and Sam have to make the harrowing decision to flee or face starving to death. Luckily, Henry has been watching the rebel patrols and thinks he knows their patterns. He paints Sam's face, giving him his own mask, just like Super Sam.
My mask!
On their way out, Henry sees Joel and Ellie take on Brian and the rebels at the laundromat, an event we saw last episode. Seeing this from Henry's perspective serves 2 important roles. 1, it allows Henry to see that Joel and Ellie are not with Kathleen, and 2, that Joel is adept with a gun. He'll later ask Joel to join him in their escape, since he'll be their muscle.
I show the way, you clear the way.
This is the way.
Henry has also never killed a man, at least not directly. He'll open up to Joel and tell him how he turned in Michael, the leader of the revolution, in exchange for his brother's medicine. It's also ironic he mentions not killing anyone, since at the end of the episode he'll end up killing his brother.
Yeah, I was saying, so I don't kill nobody, and he killed his brother. I mean, I'm like, damn.
And himself. But more on that in a bit. We now come up to the final moments of episode 4, where Sam and Henry hold Joel and Ellie at gunpoint. Even though Joel left glass on the ground to alert
but that was smart. They ain't stepping on motherfucker, because they ain't gonna make no noise.
them of intruders, it's implied his hearing is so bad in his right ear, glass on the ground to alert them of intruders, it's implied his hearing is so bad in his right ear he never heard them coming. When he wakes, you'll see that he was sleeping on his good ear, and hints of his poor hearing were set up in episode 4.
The reason I asked whether you'd hear the glass or not is because I've noticed you don't hear too well from your right side.
The initial confrontation between Henry and Joel, although tense, is not as violent as it is in the game. That's because the game didn't have that moment where Henry recognizes Joel and Ellie as allies. It's only when Henry sees Ellie in the game that he knows they're not with the rebels, because he states,
If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids around.
the rebels in the game, also known as hunters, have a survival of the fittest mentality, and kids are seen as weak. This is perhaps what drove many of the children underground. As we'll see in both the game and show, these play center type bunkers. Whether or not Kathleen has adopted a similar stance on children remains to be seen, but we do know that she has no problem killing them.
Well, kids die, Henry.
Oh yeah, I about to say she crazy. I about to say it's good she died. I ain't gonna lie, no cap. That's, you know.
They die all the time.
You crazy evil bitch!
In episode
Damn, what
4,
what kind of show is that?
learn that Ellie was able to grab some of Bill's food from the truck before they fled, which they share with a gracious Sam and Henry. By making their way up the building, they can get a better view of the city and devise an exit strategy, similar to what they did in episode 2 when making their plan to cut through Boston. In the game, this doesn't take place in Kansas City's tallest building, rather a safe house in Pittsburgh. Now, Henry catches Joel up to speed on what happened to Kansas City, which he refers to as Killer City. If you thought Boston Fedra was bad, the Fedra in KC makes Boston look like Sesame Street. Henry later telling Joel that 20 years of torture and murder will push people to do unspeakable things. Henry also divulges that he's a collaborator, something Joel has great disdain for. No doubt he's seen how collaborators have turned in many of his friends in the past. Then again, it's also a bit hypocritical since he collaborated with Fedra to smuggle supplies, although you could argue that's different. Collaborator or not, Joel needs Henry and Henry needs Joel. Henry shows how the city is surrounded by patrolled highways, and trying to get past them would be suicide. Hence, he suggests using the city's underground maintenance tunnels to sneak past the patrols and make it to the other side. In the game, they have to make it past a Fedra outpost, which guards this huge bridge. There's even a nod to a bridge in the show, although much smaller. While Joel and Henry go over the plan, Ellie bonds with Sam, laughing over her book of puns. In the game, the two also share a moment in which Henry remarks it's good to hear that kind of laughter again.
It's been a while since that boy even cracked a smile.
Sam also has this Woody Woodpecker magic slate, which he uses to communicate. Since Joel and Ellie don't know sign language, it's a way for them to communicate with Sam, especially later on in the episode with scenes between Ellie and Sam. With no other option, the group takes on Henry's dangerous plan. Enter the bank, access the tunnels, reach the residential area, and cross the bridge. Henry is a bit cocky with his plan, especially as they arrive in the tunnels and they're seemingly empty.
See? It's empty. The plan is good.
Ellie even asks if there are any clickers down here, and Ellie even asks if there are any clickers down here, and Henry's surprised when she says they took on 2 and survived. My favorite moment down here is when Henry refers to Joel as Ellie's dad, and they both deny it at the same time.
They're like, hell no.
Dad's kind of a pessimist.
It's not my dad.
The two refuse to see the father-daughter connection that's growing between them. The tunnels lead them to the entrance of an underground settlement drawn to look like a castle. What happened here is one of the game's most chilling Easter eggs. We get a brief glimpse of this drawing of Danny and Ish, protectors of the underground. Through a series of notes found in the game, we learn of Ish's story, a man who was at sea during the initial outbreak and was forced ashore near the sewers of Pittsburgh.
Magic eraser.
It's a game changer, and I'll tell you why. I used my finger, and in 4 seconds, I clicked erase. Amazing. My name is Jesse, and I'm a Google Pixel.
To those who stare down the vacation cold and say, nope. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, stunners with Alka-Seltzer Plus cold and flu relief. Also try for fizzy fast cough relief.
Ish is a reference to the main initial outbreak and was forced ashore near the sewers of Pittsburgh. Ish is a reference to the main character in the 1949 novel Earth Abides, in which Isherwood Williams establishes a community of pandemic survivors. Ish being a sea captain also bears a resemblance to Ishmael, the main character in Herman Melville's Moby Dick. So Ish constructed his own safe house and, in need of supplies, searched the nearby suburbs where he found a family, Susan, Kyle, and their children. They joined him in his safe house, and pretty soon they started a thriving community with its own school and rain catchers, which can be seen here in the show. There are a ton of similarities, from this soccer net to a list of house rules. Ellie questions what happened to them, and Joel states,
Maybe they didn't follow the rules and they all got infected.
I found this rather interesting since Ellie hasn't followed Joel's rules he outlined in episode 3.
Yeah, she didn't, yep.
She didn't listen to him by keeping her gun in her jacket instead of the backpack like he asked, and she'll break his second rule later in the episode by showing Sam her condition.
Rule 2. You don't tell anyone about your condition.
It was Ish who allowed the kids to paint the front entrance to look like a castle, and sometime thereafter he met Danny, and the two became the protectors of the community, collecting weapons and armor from dead soldiers. But things took a horrific turn when the door leading to the safe house was accidentally left open, allowing a horde of infected to run in. In the game, we see the tunnels filled with infected from this settlement.
I guess we know what happened to these people.
Seeing how there was a clicker, they've been gone for a while.
The fate of Ish, however, is left unknown. He survived the initial attack on the safe house, but what exactly happened to him is a mystery. Sam finds a Savage Starlight comic. This is a collectible you can find throughout the game and one of Ellie's favorites. In fact, she mentions it right before they get to Pittsburgh.
I know it doesn't look like it, but this here is not a bad read. Only one problem. Right there. To be continued.
Its motto is, quote, to the edge of the universe and back, endure and survive. Endure and survive being the title of this episode, and my motto after I finish an entire Taco Bell family meal to myself. Fun fact, the Savage Starlight comic is published by Dark Horse, which is the same company that publishes The Last of Us American Dreams. Henry opens up to Joel about being a collaborator, having to turn in a great man to save the life of his brother. He calls Michael a man who is never afraid or selfish, always forgiving, a man you'd follow anywhere.
Have you ever met someone like that?
I wonder if Joel is thinking of Tommy here, a man he literally follows everywhere. Henry also senses Joel was once a father. He has that protective instinct.
You might not be her father, but you were someone's.
Speaking of children, Kathleen reflects in her childhood bedroom, one she shared with her brother. It was her safe space, and so long as she was there with him, nothing could hurt her. But Michael is gone, and she makes abundantly clear to Perry she is not Michael. If Michael were kind and forgiving, she is not. Forgiveness does not win revolutions, and that's part of the reason Perry and the others follow her. She got shit done. So even though her brother would have wanted her to forgive Henry, her sense of justice, or revenge rather, clouds her judgment.
She wanted revenge.
Meanwhile, Henry, Joel, Sam, and Ellie make it through the tunnels and into the nearby residential area. Henry's a bit cocky about how his planned work.
Just saying, I delivered.
Similar to the game.
Yep, what'd I tell you, huh?
In the game, this whole section is much longer, with the team spending more time exploring the abandoned homes of Pittsburgh. You'll even see this graffiti on the front doors, just like Fedra painted on the homes in Lincoln. If you look even closer, you'll find giraffe Easter eggs. We've already seen one in episode 2, which hints at one of the game's most iconic scenes. Even though they've made it to the other side, they need to keep their flashlights off so as to not draw attention, which is a good idea considering what's about to happen. Now at this point, it's unclear where Henry and Sam will go after they reach the bridge. In the game, they're headed toward a military radio station where Henry was to meet up with some survivors. These survivors never show up. Ellie suggests they come with them to Wyoming, which Joel isn't too pleased about, but as Ellie suggests, she'll wear him down until he says yes. Persistence is a trait both Ellie and Joel possess. When it comes to his brother, Joel says,
What if you don't find him?
I will.
How do you know?
I'm persistent.
The group's luck run dries when they're attacked by a sniper. Luckily, this guy misses more than me at the bar. One of the moments I found interesting here is Henry and Sam attempting to run away.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how you gonna run away of a sniper though? Oh man, I'm like, bruh, come on now. You gotta think now. Come on now. Like, how you gonna run away with a sniper? Come on now.
The game takes this a step further, with them actually abandoning Joel and Ellie to save themselves, something Joel doesn't take too kindly to when they later reunite. It should be noted that in the game, Henry saves Joel and Ellie after they nearly drowned after escaping the hunters from the bridge, which kinda makes up for this abandonment. In both versions, Joel flanks the sniper, but in the show, this sniper is an old man, whereas in the game, it's someone much younger. And I really like this change. His old age might explain why his shot was so bad, and why he was given this shitty duty. We'll see that he's working for Kathleen.
Yeah, we got a radio. The radio came on.
And they probably put this guy out here not expecting Joel and Henry would be coming this way. Now, Joel could have just killed this man right away, but he doesn't. I've always seen Joel as a character who, more or less, does bad things for good reasons. So
yeah, because he was trying to, you know, let him live, but he was like, put the gun down and I'll let you live. He was like, boom.
Come to TurboTax.
He told you I cut that motherfucker.
Don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you, so you can do not taxes.
Cast 5 spells in 15 seconds.
But when he ends up killing the old man, it's because his own life does bad things for good reasons. So when he ends up killing the old man, it's because his own life and others are in jeopardy. He gave the old man the option to put his gun down.
He said, put the gun down. He didn't do it, so hey, you gotta kill him.
Then let them leave peacefully, but he doesn't. Whether this is because he fears he'll die anyway should Kathleen find he let them go, we'll never really know. Unfortunately, the man had already radioed into Kathleen that their fugitives had been found, with her telling him to hold on to them until they arrive. We'll see Kathleen's crew led by this giant truck, festooned with a plow to move cars and trucks out of the way, something Joel said happened on the road outside the gas station in episode 4. It's pretty funny that the plow says run as it chases down Henry, Sam, and Ellie. In both versions, Joel uses his vantage point from the sniper's nest to fend off this vehicle, but in the video game he shoots a guy trying to light a Molotov cocktail and it explodes inside the truck, ramming it into a nearby house. In the show, Joel shoots the driver, it crashes, and the gas canister lights on fire, causing a similar explosion. With nowhere to go and Kathleen stating that Sam and Ellie will not be spared, Henry tells Ellie and Sam to run while he turns himself in. And it looks as though all is lost for Henry when suddenly the truck
I'm like, oh man, they gonna kill his ass. But then they heard the channel, like, hold on, truck moving by itself. They're like, and then you just see a lot of crook clickers, boulders, you see all type of shit coming out there underground and shit.
Sinks into the ground. Like the pile of rubble within the city, something lurks underground. Not only a swath of infected and clickers, but even the rarest of all infected, a bloater.
Yep, bloater, first bloater.
Now this was absolutely terrifying. The infected come out with alarming speed and numbers. It almost reminded me of the zombies in World War Z. Even with their superior firepower, it's not long before
you know them little guns can't do shit with them.
Or the rebels are quickly overrun. This Pillsbury Doughboy looking character is the bloater. This is what happens when you've been infected with cordyceps for several years. Over time, a thick fungus develops over their skin, which acts like armor, making conventional weapons ineffective. If only Perry knew to throw a Molotov cocktail. Bloaters are actually susceptible to fire. Perry dies here just
because you shoot on the bloaters, you can't kill them with no gun. You gotta kill them with fire.
It's like some of the bloater death animations in the game, with the bloater grabbing his jaw and ripping apart his head. In all the commotion, Joel tries his best to pick off any infected around Ellie. She finds refuge in the
I thought Ellie gonna die, but I realized it's a show, so she's gonna stay alive, but still, I was kind of like, I was a little concerned. I'm like, hold on, Ellie. You this club about to die, motherfucker. No cat.
Back of a car when a girl clicker makes its way inside. She's even got a Blue's Clues shirt on. It's totally possible that this girl was part of that underground school. Ellie escapes to find Henry and Sam pinned by 2 clickers, which she makes quick work of using the switchblade given to her by Marlene. One in the comics we learn was given to her by Ellie's mother. Although never shown, it's roughly around this time that Sam is bitten, something he'll later reveal.
Oh, he was bitten from the fight they had. I didn't know he was bitten, but so he was bitten from the fight. They just trying to get away. Oh, okay.
To Ellie. As they make their escape toward the bridge, they're stopped by Kathleen. Even with everything going on around them, Kathleen wants one thing, Henry. But she's made quick work of when the clicker girl pounces on her and shreds her to bits. I guess Kathleen was right.
It ends the way it ends.
With the group making their escape, we hear the bloater making this large guttural growl, almost as if he's leading the infected toward their next stop, Kansas City. In an abandoned motel, Joel, Henry, Sam, and Ellie take refuge after the night's harrowing events. Ellie and Sam read a Savage Starlight comic, while Joel says Henry and Sam can join them on their journey to Wyoming. Henry says he'll share the good news with Sam in the morning, making Sam's death ever the more tragic. Sam asks Ellie what she's scared of, something that's brought up in the game.
Scorpions are pretty creepy.
Scorpions.
Ellie opens up to Sam about her true fear, ending up alone. Remember that Ellie has been alone her entire life, growing up as an orphan at a Fedra facility. Everyone she's been close to in life has either died or abandoned her, including Riley, who we haven't yet seen in the show. So this is a very real fear for her. Ellie then asks Sam what his fear is, answering, if you turn into a monster, is it still inside you? This is similar to what he says in the game.
What if the people are still inside? What if they're trapped in there without any control of their body?
This prompts Sam to show Ellie his bite mark. Remember from episode 1 that a bite to the leg can take anywhere from 12 to 24 hours to take control, and we can already see it's started to spread. Now Ellie doesn't tell Joel or Henry, instead she breaks the second rule and shows Sam her condition and attempts to heal him by using her own blood. She writes, "My blood is medicine," cuts her hand and places it on his wound with the hopes it might save him. He asks her to stay awake with him and she says, "I promise." This is why she'll later write "I'm sorry" on the magic pad, because she fell asleep in his final moments. In the game, Ellie's in a different room than Sam and is asked to check up on him for breakfast before she's attacked. In fact, in the game, Sam never discloses his bite to her. They also cut out a section where Sam asks if she believes in heaven, which she says she does not. What happens next plays out relatively the same in both versions, with one exception. Sam attacks Ellie, Henry won't let Joel save Ellie, Henry shoots Sam, then Henry shoots himself. The exception here is what Henry says to Joel when he briefly points
I might choose something, but he probably just felt guilty.
the gun at
he felt too much guilty, even though that wasn't him. That was a clicker, you know what I mean? You know, he turned. So you know what I'm saying, but he still felt guilty.
With the game version having Henry claim Joel is responsible.
This is your fault. This is nobody's fault, Henry. It's all your fault!
It adds a beat of tension before Henry ultimately shoots himself. Perhaps Kathleen was right.
This is what happens when you f with fate.
The game cuts to black, preparing us for the next section of the game, while the show gives us a brief epilogue where Joel and Ellie bury the dead. Agnes Obel's Fuel to the Fire plays as the credit rolls, a song about grief which asks if it's better to dwell on the past or forge on ahead. It looks like our protagonists are moving on to whatever awaits them in Wyoming. But what did you think of episode 5? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below.
Episode 5 was
Thanks
good.
for watching.
Episode 5 was good. It was a lot of action packed. You know what I mean? I thought episode 5, man. 10 out of 10. Let me know, comment what y'all think. Episode 5. Let me know. But I'm gonna like it or sub, and I'm alright. Peace.